Sanjay, I'm so glad to be back with you and thank you for agreeing to share more time with us. I've been following this project for many years now, and it's perhaps the most important and iconic example of the Business of Humanity project, where we are showing how companies incorporate social benefit into their business model and actually get synergy in terms of both economic value and social benefit. So if you could, for those who are watching, perhaps describe your motivation and the dimensions of the initial project in Vidarbha and Akola, and then we'll talk about some of the other projects that you're now engaging in.
When we thought about this project, all our customers were coming to us and telling us that we need to give them options on sustainability. And one of the major initiatives we could have taken was to give them organic cotton. And the other initiative they were thinking about was Better Cotton Initiative, which is a partial way of, a more sustainable way of growing cotton. So we started looking around to see as to where this project can be initiated. And we zeroed in on Akola, a place in Maharashtra, where it is the entire landscape is, or the land is not irrigated. It is dependent on rain, and the farmers are very poor because it's not irrigated. So when the monsoon fails, they get into a lot of distress, because the way you grow organic cotton is that you have to use the fertilizers, you have to use the pesticides, and you have to also use very expensive seeds. So when you do all that, and if the rain fails and you've invested into that, he is into debt. And because he's into debt and the rain has failed and his crop fails, he is not able to repay his debt.
In fact, I remember you mentioning to me years ago that you were concerned about the incidence of farmer suicides.
That's exactly the reason why there were suicides, that he was so indebted because of monsoons failing, that he would never be able to come out of it, and as a result, these kind of tragedies used to happen. So the best solution for this kind of a situation, which is where it is rain-fed, and is to go organic. Because in organic, all the inputs are natural. You don't use pesticides, so there is no borrowing. And again, the seeds are not BT cotton, they are the cheaper seeds. So seeds are also cheaper, and there are no other input costs. So if for some reason the monsoon is to fail, he's not borrowed money, so he's not going to get into debt. So this is the exact kind of a solution for a region like this or the area like this, which is dependent on rain. So we started this program almost 6 years back, 2007. And ever since, this project is functional. I think it's expanding, it's doing extremely well. The farmers are very well off now compared to what they were in 2007. Not only because of our program, I must point that out, because the cotton prices have gone up dramatically during this period. So we can't take all the credit. If the yields have gone up per acre, that is because of the kind of inputs which our team has been providing, which is there on the ground. Almost 100 agronomists are located on that, in that area. And so all the inputs which are provided as to all the best practices for farming are being provided to those farmers. And as a result, the yields have gone up. And to that extent, we can take the credit. The prices have also gone up because the markets have moved up. Global prices of cotton have gone up. Cotton as a commodity, as an agricultural produce, is now profitable for most of the farmers. So as a result, the farmers are well off. But this is really, in a way, expanded over the years. From a modest beginning, today we are 41,000 acres of land. We started with 1,000 farmers. We are today servicing or working with 5,100 farmers. And we intend to go to 7,000 farmers and 60,000 acres of land in organic farming. So the program is constantly getting expanded. So that very clearly shows that it's also successful. It's being well received. More and more farmers are willing to, co-opt themselves in this program. So to that extent, the program has to be helpful to both the parties.
So it's a very complex system that you have here, and there's an enormous amount of technical expertise that's going in and being brought to the farmers. I see you balancing sustainability. I see you taking the concern for the farmers. You're going to the backward areas because they need your help. But at the same time, there is, I'm sure, an economic justification that your shareholders will expect from you. So balancing these three, how do you bring about this balance? How did you decide to go to Vidarbha in the first place?
See, we have a large line of organic denim. We've been selling organic denim since the mid-90s.
And that's premium price because it's organic.
It's premium price. It's also a premium product. It's not premium because it's
organic.
It's organic. It's premium for a variety of reasons.
And the organic adds to the...
The organic adds the sustainability component to the product. What it does also is that, our buyers are extremely socially conscious, extremely environmentally conscious. So it allows us to sell more and it allows us customer stickiness. So given a choice between many options, somebody would like to be associated with a project like we have in Akola. It's a very intensive process.
It's not just that someone sitting in the head office is monitoring this.
Oh, it's very hands-on.
Yes, because we have to conduct about 100 training programs a year on several topics: organic pest management, organic nutrient management, identification of pests, water conservation, all kinds of training programs. Then you have the farmers' field visited at least once a fortnight by an extension staff member. You have farm records kept in 2 copies, one with our office and one with the farmer. Our extension officer goes there, makes sure he's recording all the inputs so that at the end of the year, the farmer can get a P&L and can get a sense of how his efforts and how the organic practices are actually benefiting him. We also do free soil testing for each and every farmer. Each and every farmer gets a soil prescription at the end of the year. And then we procure from the doorstep. So the farmer doesn't have to rent a bullock cart and go 3-4 days to a ginner who will then say his product is substandard and really exploit the farmer. So we buy from the doorstep, pay direct deposit into a bank account that the farmers have opened. We pay the highest rates in the market.
No intermediary.
So it's integrated into your supply chain.
It's very integrated, and there is no room for exploitation, because exploitation happens when there are middlemen and when there are farmers that don't have access to the supply chain. Both these issues we have solved.
My goodness.
So that's also a very attractive thing for the farmers, that they get paid very quickly, so liquidity is infused. One other major thing is that we have 7,300 farmers. We can go to the seed manufacturers and get them 10-15%.
All the inputs are also negotiated.
Oh. Yes, you have more purchasing capacity.
Yes, exactly.
Beyond now cotton, the other rotational crops like soya bean, we have started sourcing. So it's now not only limited to cotton, and now it is getting extended to pulses. So all the rotational crops which are necessary to improve the soil condition are also being brought in. So Arvind has also moved beyond its immediate requirement of cotton. And we have now started this as a separate strategic business unit, because now it's becoming agro business for Arvind, because it's not limited to we only looking at cotton. It's gone into soya bean. Pragnesh is setting up a soya bean processing factory, so that factory will be up and running. We should be we'll be the largest buyer of soya bean in that region now. And now the pulses will also, we are experimenting with buying pulses and marketing them globally. So now this is going to become an important new business initiative. So it started with our need to to be sustainable and service our set of customers, but it's grown into becoming a standalone, a profit center. So it's very nice, it's very good, it's a win-win for the community at Akola. And for Arvind, it's a nice thing with very limited kind of risk. We've been able to get into a new business avenue, which is strategically very important to our core business, but it's now becoming also profitable in a way that it's a separate profit center.
And you develop new competencies from which you're raising, adding economic value. The other thing that struck me when I was speaking to you earlier was the amount of support that this garnered. As you said, it started with the emphasis on sustainability, and the history of Arvind is very clear in terms of your sense of social responsibility. I gather that there are people like Patagonia who are very much into sustainability, who see you as the primary source for shirting material and things of that nature, and you become one of the largest producers of organic denim in the world. So it's been an extraordinary win-win, as you said. But along the way, I also learned that many other local partners got engaged with you. Government and other companies like Tata's have also been supporting this project in a variety of ways, right?
Absolutely. See, one of the major problems of this place is, suppose if you have to ask me as to what are your concerns about, not more about Arvind benefiting through the organic program, but whether this is sustainable for the farmers, whether we can assure that the farmers' income year in, year out will grow, and can we then mitigate the problem of a drought year, which could always happen one in 10 years or 5 years or 6 years. And with all the kind of climate change which is happening, it may happen more frequently. So one of the issues is that how do we bring irrigation to this? You know, we cannot have bore wells because the water is very saline and not good. So we have created ponds, and ponds for a community of farmers, 10 farmers, and they all join in to put in the kind of equipments which are required to pump the water out, a motor and the kind of the drip irrigation, or the kind of how to bring water to their farm from that pond. Those kind of that equipment is being co-shared by a group of farmers, and that experiment we have begun. So that's where the Ratan Tata Foundation has helped us initially in creating these ponds for a set of farmers. But now that experiment is successful. And they have the water. So even if the monsoon is not very normal, they will not face the kind of problems the other farmers would face. So now the challenge is how to garner resources either from the government, whatever is available, or we really go to various charities and get the kind of funds to create this facility for providing them with irrigation. So that is one concern. The other thing is that now we were only able to buy cotton, and now we have extended to other rotational crops. So the farmers are supported a little more to that extent that, and when there is too much rain, cotton may have a problem, but soybean can do very well. So when you have rotational crops, the kind of, you de-risk your model to that extent, that you have the ability to go to a crop with a kind of climatic conditions which prevail. So that is another thing which we have been able to do. The third thing we have now created is our ability to respond to changing environment there. So if there is a pest attack, what is the immediate solution we need to bring about? If there is too much rain and flooding, then what should be really done immediately? If there is a drought, then how do we advise the farmers to not to get into certain crops and get into other set of crops? So these are the kind of capabilities which we have been able to build over the years. And this has been recent new initiatives.
Okay. So your management capabilities have also been enhanced in terms of responding to critical incidents. Excellent.
The key for sustainability of the project is happy farmers.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So we don't, if the farmers are not happy, we don't have a project. And that's I think the best yardstick today, that we have a very, very low farmer dropout rate from our projects. That more than any of these numbers, which can have many confounding factors, is the sign that our project is doing well. And the kind of feedback we get from the farmers year on year.
To expand the area. So more and more farmers are willing to register and expand the area. So these are all the, I think, promising signs.
So, in a sense, it looks like this has been an extraordinarily positive experience, obviously for the farmers. The environment has been improved, the land is better taken care of, you have added competencies, you've gained new business. So it's a total win. So are there any other lessons that you have learned from here? Clearly the management capabilities, your ability to respond to crises, and so your excuse me, your diversification into other crops. All this has happened. Taking those lessons, have you taken some these lessons to other areas? Are there other projects that you're now thinking of now that you've had this excellent experience in Akola and Vidarbha?
Yes, see, the DNA of the company is to constantly think that if we can have a business model wherein the business model in itself has to be very profitable and logical and creating shareholders value, but simultaneously at the same time, if it can support also societal needs, then it's a win-win. So we have quite a few such projects. One of the other projects which Arvind had done as CSR many years back was to upgrade one of the slum near our factory. That was a pure CSR. There was no business motive in that. But recently, the government of Gujarat has come out with a new policy where they want to upgrade slums, and they have incentivized developers or real estate companies to do this. And they have given them extra FSI, which can be used in their other projects. If they upgrade a slum, put it up, and upgrade the kind of livelihood of people who are staying in the slum. So the most difficult part in this business is to get consensus of all the slum dwellers. When a real estate company goes there, the slum dwellers don't trust them because they're worried that these people will, cheat them in a way. So you don't get, and you have to have minimum 70% of the slum dwellers to agree before you can initiate this project. When Arvind went there with the slum we had worked worked on many years back, 100% of the people have agreed. So now we will have a successful slum upgradation program. So once you have a success behind you, it's easier to go to another slum and say, you can come and see the quality of houses we have built. You can go and check with the slum dwellers whether they are happy or not. So you need the first win to roll it out as a successful, continuous business opportunity for your company. So we are going to do that. So this is another example of how a business opportunity can be dovetailed along with a social benefit. So this is another one. The other thing which Arvind is working on and which is our core business is garmenting. And India needs garmenting because we are very good at making fabrics, but our fabric goes for conversion to Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or various other countries which are more competent in converting fabrics into garments. This has happened because of industrial IR laws or industrial regulatory framework in India, which is restrictive. Over the years, now the government has realized this and liberalized those policies at the state level. not at the center, but some of the states have given the freedom and so that one can deploy large numbers of labor on one's balance sheet. One can bring them on without being worried about creating a large contingent liability. Because you can't downsize, then it's a contingent liability. And you have to give them a golden handshake if you have to downsize your business. So it's a very large liability. So what we have thought of is that two things are very important: labor costs, but at the same time, it has to be productive, and it has to be a win-win between labor and the company. So we have looked at the problem of Gujarat, and there is Adivasi and Dalit girls, unmarried girls, who are not empowered, who have no kind of future ahead of them because of the kind of poverty they are.
And if I could just interject the colloquial terminology that is used, Adivasis are what people refer to as tribals, right?
Tribals,
and
yes.
Dalits were previously the untouchables in the Indian community.
Right, absolutely. So we have now, we have planned and we have done a pilot of 200 girls, and they've been put up in dormitories, so they are completely safe, and they've been brought from villages. The families had to be convinced, and we could convince them that here is a very safe and a very good place for them to earn. And we have also worked out that whilst it is an earn and learn program, so when they will work, they'll get the wages, and at the same time, we'll be teaching them certain skills. So once they get married and go back, they'll be skilled enough to earn a living after they've gone back. So with this, the advantage is that I don't have a permanent workforce on my balance sheet. So I don't have a terminal kind of liability. And I am addressing a social issue on the, in a way that these are this is the section which requires support. So here again, we'll now be thinking about having 10,000 women on one location. We are building world-scale dormitories.
10,000?
10,000. Just in Dehgam, just 45 kilometers away from Ahmedabad. So it will be a large-scale project where world-class dormitories will be built, and 10,000 women from the various villages of Gujarat will be brought in and housed there. And we'll have a very large program with no liabilities possibly to accrue, because they'll get married and go back. And we'll empower them in a way whilst they are working. We'll teach them the skills by which they will carry on with their livelihood even after they'll get married. So these are the kind of, see, this is a thought process that how can we think about win-win situations where society benefits, at the same time it meets with a specific business need of the company. Finally, I think, yes, this is when we were growing up as young people in our families, or my father and grandfather always taught me that a certain part of your income has to go for charity. And, but that's personal, that has nothing to do with business. And he said that if you cannot make a difference to society, then you would have failed very clearly, you know, however successful you may be as a businessman. But as a human being, you would have failed. So this was ingrained into us that, you know, unless you could, whatever gifts, whatever capability you got, unless you use it. And he always told us that money is the easiest thing to give. If you can give your time and your ability, that's what will make a difference. You know, anyone can write a check. If you're very wealthy, then after a while, money stops making sense to most of us. So you can write a check and give that donation. But that's not enough. Unless you give your time and ability, it will not work, because you need to see that every rupee you have given is well used, and finally whether it has to work like a business, that, you know, whether really the kind of objectives and the benefits you thought should accrue to the to the end user has accrued or not can only be possible if you devote your time and ability and put in systems and processes and hire the best minds and people in doing so.
But the interesting thing is you also plan for the contingencies. So this does not.
Exactly. What can go wrong, we are constantly working on that, and we are acutely aware that it can happen anytime.
Yes, and that's where your management skills come into play.
Absolutely.
Terrific. Thank you again so much for your
You're
time,
most welcome.
Sanjay. I can't tell you how valuable this is for us in terms of learning how important this perspective is in management. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Join us in our efforts to help create a better, friendlier, and more sustainable future for all. Sustaining people, sustaining the industry, sustaining the environment.